Welcome, everybody. It's another edition of the Lore Games. It's Thursday. You know we love Thursdays here. What are the Lore Games? The Lore Games is the 30,000-foot view of the adult fantasy universe. This is where we make all of the big decisions as a community. Everyone in chat, everyone here, our guests, our esteemed colleagues here. We work together in unison to create the big, giant milestone events of the adult fantasy universe. The things that will shape the entire continuity of the universe for years to come, it is absolutely my favorite day of the week. Man, it's been fantastic. Our first volume of the Lore Games is being turned into a book. We'll talk about that in a minute. We have amazing things coming up and a lot of things planned in the adult fantasy universe. Next week is going to be a big week. So if you are in our sphere and you want to hang with adult fantasy and AF, tune in next week to the Discord, man. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think a lot of people are going to be happy. Secrets means secret. Announcements of announcements. The announcement of the announcement has been made. Next week is going to be awesome, and I think it's a big jump forward for AF, and you guys are going to dig it. All right, with that said, all that stuff going on, let's go ahead and intro everyone tonight. First, to my this would be my left, your right. We've got Studio 7.62, also known as Avery Butterworth. Avery is a world-class illustrator, done work for Heavy Metal Magazine, Image Comics, White Wolf Publishing. He's also doing the art for the Origin comic, the Devoid Origin comic. You've already seen his work inside of the Ashcan edition. What's up, Avery? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I am stuffed full of Del Taco and beef brisket from Buc-ee's.
I am glad I am not your toilet.
Exactly. Yeah. It's good, though. Oh, my God. I haven't had Del Taco in like 30 years.
Del Taco is pretty badass. Yeah.
It's oh, my God.
Yeah, Del Taco is good. Awesome, man. Well, welcome. We're gonna we'll mix it up. We'll mix it up tonight for sure. All right. And right below me, this way, we have the one, the only Andrew Charper from Misfit Corner Comics. If you guys don't know, Misfit Corner Comics is the best comic shop in the state of Florida. It's located in Jacksonville, Florida, at the Beach Boulevard Flea Market. It is one of my favorite comic shops, the least reason of which is because of this guy down here. It actually is a phenomenal shop. He does a great job. He's one of the best retailers I know. Andrew is also an independent comic creator. He's created a number of graphic novels. His most recent is called Hero. He's been working on Hero for several years. He's on volume 3-ish, I think. Three. He's on volume 3. You always got to check because you never know. There have been times before where it's been like, hey, you're working on volume 6 of whatever. It's like, no, I started over. Page 1, volume 1. But no, we're on volume 3 now, and that's good.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss the starting all over thing.
How's
my audio coming through? Do I got the right microphone this time?
No, you sound great.
Okay, I have two things to say. Number one, Saturday is my favorite day of the week. And is Avery taking applications for someone to be his toilet?
Oh, no.
I normally shit on him anyway.
Todd, you started. You said, I'm glad I'm not your toilet.
I did. And the minute I said that, I was like, someone's going to make me pay.
I'm saving that for my OnlyFans.
Andrew, we are starting a point system. You are getting a plus 25.
Just switch him and Zach so he's under me.
Andrew gets plus 25 XP just for being open to extremely hardcore jokes. All right, good job, Andrew. Welcome. Awesome. That was great. And over here, down to the corner over here, we have the one, the only Zach Arbella. Zach has written 13 novels in the fantasy space. He's also writing the first of which we hope will be many adult fantasy books. In fact, that adult fantasy book came directly out of this show. So we worked together last season or last volume, whatever you want to call it. All of us together came up with a badass concept, and now it's being turned into a book. What's up, Zach? How you doing, buddy?
Well, I can't top that previous comment. Quite frankly, scatological humor is not really my forte. There's a long and disgusting story behind that, which I'm not going to get into because there's a good chance that there are some underage participants in this chat, and I would rather not get arrested. So,
fair enough.
So all I'm going to say right now is that I am staring at a can of Funky Buddha Lager, and I'm going to give it a try.
Let's do it.
Can is funky. Still not so sure about the actual beer, though.
All right. Fair enough. Love it, man. Well, welcome, dude. And just because I didn't cover it, just want to say, so if you guys have never been here before, if you're watching this for the first time, this is a spoiler show. We're literally inventing the things that we will be working towards for the next several months, several years. So if you want to be completely surprised about where everything is going, you might want to tune in, 6 months from now or something. But this is a spoiler show. We invite you to spoil with us because we're inventing together. All right, guys. So let's pop it in. Let's see where we are. Let's open up the story circle and get her going. All right, let's see. I'm gonna move this right yonder. There we go. All right. We have the story circle, and we are working on what we are affectionately calling right now the cult. We have been working on this for a couple of weeks, and we've made a lot of progress. It's actually turning out to be really good. I will briefly go through the story. Okay. And last time we had towards the end, we actually had a flurry of creative activity, like right before the clock. So we may want to, I feel like we're going to pick it up and we'll be pretty hot to trot and like ready to go. So I'm really interested to see where it goes tonight. So story circle. It's the 1970s. Two officers, one a rookie cop / profiler, begin by solving a murder due to a mysterious object. This eventually leads to ancient cults, apathetic apes, zombie grandmas, the awakening of the primordial, the destruction of the planet, and hard rock music ballads. And now you'll see it says you and then need. So what we're doing is this is the second part of our game. The very first part was something we call Microscope, which is based on the game of the same name, where Microscope is throwing ideas against the wall, trying to get some basic structure in, really just anything goes. The second part, after we have Microscope done, is the story circle. And you can actually see the story circle here on the right. You is number one, then need, then go, then search, then find, then take, then return, then change. This is the hero's journey. This is the basic story circle and the story structure of most, if not all, of the 20th century storytelling and 21st century. It is every movie, every book, everything you watch, read, or enjoy pretty much follows this circle. And if it doesn't, if you don't like a movie and you don't know why, it's probably because I tried to break this. So good enough for everybody else, good enough for us. So that is you. It is the 1970s in New York City. The main character, who we named Nathan Ranger last episode, kind of like a Jack Reacher type character. Young, he's naive, he's idealistic, clean-cut quarterback rookie cop, cuts the crust off his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Irish lad, dad was a cop. They've been a cop for generations, and he is defined by being extremely loyal. He's a really loyal cat. His need, what is the character's need? What is Nathan's need? Well, his father was a cop, so he needs to live up to those expectations. That's his internal drive. We also need an external one, right? He wants to be the perfect son, make his dad proud. His dad was killed in the line of duty, and his dad was killed in a weird way. It was a little not normal, a little maybe extraterrestrial, or just a little odd. And Nathan has been trying to set the world in order. He needs that because his childhood was in such disarray. So order matters so much to him. So chaos and disorder ain't going to go so well for him. He really needs to know what killed his dad. So he's been tracking this. It's unsolved. He's the kind of person that he's been obsessed with this. We're imagining pictures of the scene, files, etc. Like he's having trouble having a normal life because he's always gravitating towards this. In his not just his spare time, but his full time too. He just cannot get off of it. He's always looking for the solution to this problem. Go. Where does Nathan go? How does he enter? What type of unfamiliar situation does he enter? Well, our cop is introduced to an agent from some agency called X Agency. We don't know if that's the real name or not. We just inserted a fake agency. He's taken to a crime scene identical to his dad's. Agency has watched him for years, knows he's an expert in the case. They have new info to share with our cop, but in order to do so, the cop will need to, quote unquote, disappear. Maybe he's killed in action, dishonorably discharged, convicted of his dad's murder is what we actually settled on. Like after all these years, it turns out that he was the killer, or at least that's what the public will be led to believe, and maybe the audience, depending on how we set this up. He takes responsibility for a murder suspect in order to get close to the person that truly knows what happened to his dad in prison. This person in prison is ungettable. The only way to get this person is get thrown into the pit. So he gets blamed for the negative, but he really wants to save lives. This prison is a supermax prison, kind of like the Raft for superheroes. It is, or supervillains. It is a hardcore prison that nobody knows about, purely for supervillains. The only way in is for him to take the blame for the murders of his dad and this new case. And so now there's a problem in that Nathan is in a prison where he's the only human being in a prison full of superpowered people, meaning he's just a meat bag, right? Like there's no way he could survive this. It's going to be very difficult for him to survive. So he's the only human in there. The Supermax prison might be located under the Statue of Liberty, which I think is pretty cool. We thought about maybe doing a pecking order attack during the search, which is him adapting to the situation. A pecking order attack is like you fight one guy and then the next guy is bigger and the next guy, like boss levels. We also discussed that he begins sessions with a therapist who is almost immediately on to him, because this straight-laced cop that takes the crust off his PB&J just doesn't come across as a hardcore stone cold mutant killer. He starts a fight with another prisoner while watching to try to prove that he's a bad guy, but is immediately out of his depth. Luckily, his cellmate intervenes and saves him. And we've discussed that this person was also a former person of the X Agency. And they become friends. Hold on. What's up? Hold on. I'm getting pinged from outside. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Talk amongst yourselves. Hold on for a second.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hey guys, I'll be right back because it's been a weird day. So do
Uh-oh.
me a favor and discuss where we are and what you guys want, and we'll continue in just a second. It's one of those days.
Right.
Improv. I'll be right back.
So the other day, I go to Whataburger, and they have up their new shake, and it's a banana pudding shake. And
That's exactly what the overweight diabetic needs.
From the day I saw that sign, I've said to myself, that is what I want.
To die drinking.
But you know what? It hasn't happened yet. But I want it so bad. I was telling my boss in New York about it, and when he came down to visit, we made plans to go to Whataburger and get banana pudding shakes. And it didn't happen because there was some drama that happened at home, and we weren't able to do it, and they weren't able to do it before they had to leave. And I have yet, even though that was like 3 weeks ago, I've still yet to have one of these things. And I don't know about you guys, but there's something about banana pudding that just thrills me. Just the thought of it. Now, I don't know about you, but my wife, when she makes banana pudding, instead of using vanilla wafers, she uses ginger snaps.
Ginger snaps.
Yeah, it's a type of cookie. They're
I know what ginger snaps are.
I don't like the taste of them, but it's banana pudding. So I will take, if she wanted to put a side of corn syrup and half a raw onion in there, I'd probably still eat it because it's banana pudding. But that
sounds disgusting.
Yeah, I know.
Dusty's like, cut the feed.
He did say talk about whatever it is we wanted to. And I'm just thinking I really, really want banana pudding. Matter of fact, she made banana pudding the other night, but she used the ginger snap, so I'm not in a hurry. But I'm definitely having banana pudding tonight for dessert, guys. Just so you know.
Wonderful.
Nope.
Take a double shot of insulin too.
Yeah, I got that right in front of me. I'll take care of that. Hey, you know what my daughter used to say about the Chinese restaurant that I like to go to?
You're gonna die.
And you know what I told her in response?
What?
Well, I'm gonna die happy.
Sick.
Oh well.
Please come back, Todd.
Oh, come on. I do a show on Friday nights. I keep you guys entertained this way, don't I?
Yeah. So,
Right.
so about the prison wallet scene.
Dudes, I actually did some research on that. Don't ask me how.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's so apparently it's actually a fairly common technique in prisons, especially for hiding cell phones.
Whoa, they fit the cell phone up there.
Yeah, but well, actually, no, they have to. How do I put this? Train the actual. It's like any other. It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym to work on your arms. So they have to adapt that particular part of the body to hold it. And they use bars of soap for that.
All about flexing those muscles.
Yeah, well, actually, more about being able to fit stuff into a place where it's not really designed to go.
We just have to call the character who has the empty space in his head to hide stuff. We just have to call him Prison Wallet as a nickname.
Anyway, which on a side note, I was rummaging through my stuff earlier today, and I found a couple copies of like my old copies of The Boys. Volumes 1 and 2.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't like the art in that. I never did. I always thought it was just a little too. Yeah.
Eric Robertson is awesome.
Yeah, it's just not my taste. I guess
Well, honestly, one of my all-time favorite comics was The New Warriors, and the comic started with the art from Mark Bagley, who's a very well-known. I don't want to say he's typical when it comes to his art style, but he's definitely a comic book artist. It's very typical style. Well, at one point he got replaced by Derek Robertson, who's the guy that did The Boys. And I absolutely despised it. It was like I was soul crushed in that they took one of my favorite titles and they killed it by putting this artist on it. But he began to grow on me. He's actually a much better artist.
More of a Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee fan. And speaking of which, apparently Todd McFarlane might be called in to run DC Comics. At least that's the rumor.
Yeah, that's a rumor. It's been a rumor for a while.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen.
I don't know if it can happen at this point, given the way things are over there.
Well,
but we'll see.
You never know. You never know.
I said they should just bring back Jim Shooter just for the entertainment value.
Is Jim Shooter still alive?
Yeah, he's still around.
Yeah, he's still around.
Okay.
And there are still, it's funny if there are still people who work with them in the 80s who to this day, every time he does an interview on anywhere, they will flood the comment section of the video or article and just trash him left and right. He apparently, I don't know, they're still sore about stuff that happened 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, he was known to like cut up people's art.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like even people like Mike Zeck, he would cut up their art and rearrange it.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he did probably help keep Marvel Comics from falling into the abyss.
He did. It's just a lot of people didn't like his tactics.
Yeah, well,
it's like having like a hard ass coach of your football team and not liking him because he's so mean to you, but he pushes you to be the better team, you know?
Why is Dusty saying cut the feed?
No idea. No idea whatsoever.
Andrew started talking about banana pudding, and then we talked about prison wallets.
And then somehow Avery was able to make those two stories go together.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
No.
It was 3 fat guys, 1 cup.
Oh.
Yeah, just 2 words: prison wallets, physical training, and bar of soap. I think that'll be enough to get us to get us infamous.
This is what happens when I go away for 1 minute.
If you gave us another 5 minutes, we probably would have moved on to alien abductions, conspiracy theories, and wild claims about the deep state controlling us all.
That's true. That's not a theory.
All right, anyway.
and then probably ending up with with assertions that this is all just a simulation anyway, and that we don't really actually exist.
Again, that's true.
See what happens, Todd, when you step away and you let the children play unsupervised.
Exactly. You left 3 man children unsupervised.
Dusty, wait, we have Dusty says that everyone is at negative 125 points currently.
No, wait. Does that mean I lost 125 points?
Well, you lost 125, but now you're only down 100 because you had gained 25.
No,
so in other words, I'm still ahead of these two.
125 is his A1C.
Okay, luckily his cellmate intervenes and saves him. He was formerly of X agency, and they became friends. The guy in prison, the guy that you're supposed to see, stores items in his head potentially, like a prison banker. No idea what that word right here means. I have a feeling you guys have talked about it quite a bit. Anyway, something happens there. So basically, we kind of danced around this a little bit, and I know it changes. So the big thing we thought of was that the person he was supposed to talk to in the cell kills himself. Makes more sense if it would be in front of our hero and his cellmate. And we also started talking about the cellmate maybe being Cobalt Fox, which would be only if it makes sense, but it seems like it might make sense. So if Cobalt Fox is in there in the jail cell and with him, then we have a kind of a tie in there. And maybe Cobalt Fox knows the prison person, so that's why the guy killed himself in front of Cobalt Fox. Something there. We also learn potentially that the one clue that we learned, because basically the guy in the cell is like, I'm not telling anybody anything. He kills himself. He offs himself. More dramatic than that, but basically maybe that's what he does, is always try to kill himself, and he's always failed. But this time he succeeds. Anyway, what we learn potentially is that maybe he has a daughter, and so that's kind of leads us into the further search. The way that they get to this guy in prison, this guy who's untouchable, is potentially through a riot, like a prison riot. We also had the idea, or actually Andrew had the idea, that maybe the prison is kind of like a Suicide Squad style battle arena. Like, not officially, but you have all these supervillains in there, so maybe some of the super teams toss in their heroes in there to train. I actually love that, kind of like a real world danger room, like an X-Men danger room, but instead of holograms and robots, you just toss them into a prison cell and let them fight their way out. That's pretty dope. And that right there is its own comic series, man. Like, that right there is its own thing. Pretty awesome. There's the prison riot. We've discussed possibly having General Hurricane Steel in pursuit, or Triceracop. Next search, possibly like a 1970s style cult. We talked about a bunch of stuff at this point that happened in the 70s that we could use as kind of search fodder, just to remind ourselves that this takes place in the 70s, not current day. We continuing in the search area. We said Cobalt Fox helps Nathan get to the prisoner's cell. I know who that is, right? So we're talking a little bit more about that prisoner before he kills himself. Nathan, they end up making their way. We're trying to discuss how they find out about the daughter. Maybe there's a picture in the cell, or maybe Nathan goes to the psychiatrist's office, goes through the files, gets the file on the prisoners. In the file, the prisoner has a daughter. Cobalt sees a pic, maybe he palms it or rips it. So it maybe Cobalt Fox was in the picture and like ripped it. We're not really sure. But there's something going on between Cobalt Fox and this prisoner. So search, we thought about finding this clue, an address, the photo. Maybe Cobalt Fox triggered the prison riot. Hurricane Steel is still active in the Black Ops, kind of like a weird science research operation. Nathan's father worked for Steel and was his protege. However, his father quit the agency, became a cop in New York City. Even though he quit the life did not quit him. When he was killed and his son got involved, Steel became involved and took over the hunt for the killer. So we were discussing about how we could tie General Steel in, like a much younger General Steel, into being emotionally invested in the hunt for the killer, and now can't believe that it was the son that killed him the whole time. Maybe at this point in his life, Steel hates supers or mutants or whatever we're going to call them. Hurricane charges Nathan's partner as a guy to get him back in custody. So basically, Nathan's former partner becomes the guy to hunt him down, potentially. Or maybe it could be, maybe it's Steel himself. You know, it might also be interesting if we skip that other partner and we just bring in Steel, General Steel, as the guy who brought him into X agency, and then you just have, you know, a relationship built between them. So they go from friends and kind of going in and like a apprentice, you know, master apprentice relationship, to now the master's hunting the apprentice because it turns out the apprentice is a killer, or thought to be a killer. So we have go find this person, the search. So we talked about fugitives and different movies with fugitives in it. Maybe there's the diner scene where the cops come in. You know, these are classic scenes, classic tropes. Phone booth calls to see if the girl is home, or car chases. The partner believes that Nathan is a murderer. So maybe, again, we thought maybe Full Metal Jackson for the original partner, but it really could be Steel. After the first interaction, Full Metal Jackson sees the prison footage and sees the address file that Nathan took. The chase is on. So maybe he was looking at the footage. The redemption for Full Metal Jackson, serial killer was his partner and he missed it. So if Full Metal Jackson is and this could work with Steel as well, if either Steel or Full Metal Jackson is the partner or the person that brought Nathan into the X agency, and all of a sudden it comes out that this guy's a double murderer or whatever, triple murderer or whatever it is, and these guys missed it, then they're just going to be the joke of the department. They're just going to be, you know, basically ruined. So it might make a lot of sense to focus on that. This is step number 5. Cobalt Fox realizes that he was the one that killed the cop's dad, possibly. But he was ordered to do it. I don't know if it's like too much incestual relationships between everyone involved is like related to each other. But it could work. I don't know. I'm totally open to it. We'll figure it out. One of the interesting things was in Find was that we needed to have a Betsy Ross-like character, which is the cellmate's daughter. So maybe the cellmate's daughter knows Cobalt Fox. She thinks of him as an uncle. She knows the path is the link to what Nathan needs as well, because she knows that Cobalt Fox did it. Cop tries to kill him but can't. Andrew with a quote, like the dead guy from Ghost, which is great. Change, we discovered that possibility we discover info that possibly reveals that the psychiatrist is the big villain, pulling the strings to the big bosses to the jail, descendant of the Cirrus. The Cirrus is a character from our first book, Blood and Metal. Cobalt Fox is like the Dread Pirate Roberts. So this was interesting. The original goes back to the 19th century. It's a name or title that is passed on down. Nathan takes on the name in this story at the end. So maybe this is the origin story of Cobalt Fox, which I thought was fascinating. That's a very interesting way to do this. Maybe he has a daughter and that's Clairvoy or Vorpal. Maybe the goal of a Cobalt Fox is to pass it on to someone else to stop the corrosion of himself. The face is both a mask and a curse. If you guys know out there, if you know Red Skull, kind of like that, where the mask is like you just can't take it off and it kind of just embeds itself into your face. Does the daughter need saving? Triggers Nathan needing the Cobalt mask and the magic pipe. Finding the pipe somewhere else, pipe power. So we started talking about the mask and the pipe, and seeing what that could entail. And that's pretty much where we are. Again, I apologize for bouncing for just a couple minutes. Thank you guys for being mature and holding it down.
It was awful.
It's okay. We're called adult fantasy. There's a reason.
Yeah.
Prison wallet. Anyway.
on the fantasy.
That's right.
Not the adult.
Right. It's always a scale, right? The fantasy a little more, the adult a little more.
It was more like junior high fantasy.
The junior high fantasy, that really is true. That really is true. I mean, junior high adult fantasy. That's right. Tween fantasy? It gets weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, daughter needs saving. So what do you guys? So we started talking. I really, one of the things that kind of was like a big eye opener for me was the idea that this is actually the story of the origin story of Cobalt Fox.
Yeah,
like
the Cobalt Fox.
Our Cobalt Fox, because you wouldn't think it's kind of a cool twist because you wouldn't think that because there's a Cobalt Fox in the story, right? So, I think it could be very interesting. I think the challenge with that is, well, I'll say this. I think if we do that, so our Cobalt Fox is sort of this sly, upscale, rich jewel thief, right? He's kind of that, like he came. Do you ever remember Pink Panther?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's kind of like that. He's kind of like the erudite jewel thief. Or maybe I think there's even a character in Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 12 that acts as like this, you know, super gentleman, you know, this worldly gentleman, super kind, gracious, very sweet, and basically stole everything that he owns. Yeah. And I love that. I think that's fantastic. So really, if we do that, that's actually a great challenge for us, is saying, okay, this is the story of our Cobalt Fox. So we need to get Nathan to a point where he is continuing to go down and actually becomes a jewel thief, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the person he was is dead.
Right. The person he was is dead. So he needs to become like this not Inspector Clouseau. I wish I remembered the jewel thief.
But he needs to become, the Pink Panther, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He needs to become the Pink Panther. Exactly. The thief of the Pink Panther was the name of the jewel, but that thing.
Thief. I forgot the name of the thief too. It's been.
I don't remember. Yeah, I know it's been too long. But so what are some things? What are some things that we could invent that would push us that way for Nathan?
It's going to be his adventures after this mostly, but his name and who he is as a person being destroyed. And him having to assume this mantle as a new identity is the first step. It's some of his adventures after this that are going to shape him into that character.
Well, yeah, but although I think this, he has to start small. We have to. I mean, it actually does make a lot of sense because at the very beginning, the life conscious order section of this, he's tight knit. Like he's tight knit and like a little OCD, right? But law abiding, and then he becomes like chaotic law abiding, right? So if you think about it, order, law abiding, disorder, like order, law abiding, disorder, law abiding, disorder, breaking the law, and then order, breaking the law, and that's the character loop.
He becomes chaotic good.
Right, he becomes chaotic good. So by the time he gets right from number 3 to number 5, It's disorder. He's in a prison. He's on the run. He's doing, but he's still letter of the law. He's not going to break the law, right? He's still cutting the crust off his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I even think you have a scene. You could have a scene towards the chain side in number 8 where he's just eating a burger or eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, not even thinking about it, and he's just like starving. And he just eats it, and he's not even peeling the crust off. Like he's a different character with the same.
And he had to steal it.
That's right. Yeah, totally. And I think from 5 to 7, he has to start stealing. He breaks the law a little bit, like you know, maybe he has to steal some clothes, or maybe he has to steal some food. But then by the end of it, I think the way he ends up beating the villain, if it's the psychiatrist, the way he ends up beating the villain is through theft and being the bad guy that she knows he's not. Right? Yeah. He has to become the bad guy in order to subvert her expectation of like, well, you're not going to do this. You're a good, right? You know, those scenes where like, you're not going to shoot me. You're Batman. And then like Batman's like, oh, you're right. Like that's the kind of thing where you have to.
Yes, like, you go. No, I'm going.
Right. He has to cap her, but not literally. But
not like, literally. It's more like he pulls a con.
That's right. He has to pull a massive con to set this person up, Ocean's 11 style con, right?
Yeah.
So that by the end of it, you know that this guy, this new person, while still order and erudite and dressed well and tucks his shirt in, and maybe he goes back to eating peanut butter and jelly with the crust taken off, now loves the thieving process, or at least realizes he doesn't have to love it at this point, but he has to, because it's the 70s, but he has to realize that it's imperative for him to do this to survive, or to gain power over all of this. Like his understanding of the world has now changed. You know, before power was the law because the law was good, and now afterwards power is thievery because it's the only way to get ahead and really get real justice or something like that. Right? He's not necessarily a villain,
because he sees the shadows that are behind everything. He has to, and he has to live in those shadows.
Right.
And so how do you get what you need and expose things while you're in the shadows, you know?
Right. Totally. So I'm gonna just put down here just because that was pretty good. So it's like order, law, like law abiding, and then we have disorder, law is law abiding, and then we have disorder. What's the opposite of law? Like break law or like illegal?
Criminal.
Thank you. Definitely, he becomes the criminal that they're chasing, right? And then when he comes back again, it's order, criminal.
Yeah.
So basically, every scene that we need to create should move that forward a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it goes full circle for him. Yeah, that works. I like that.
Right, and that way, if we get it back to where, you know, Nathan has to accomplish an Ocean's 11 style big con to get to overcome the villain.
This story goes from something that's like a cross between Seven and Men in Black, to a 70s exploitation prison flick, to the chase movie, The Fugitive.
It does,
and then goes into a heist film.
It really does.
It goes into Ocean's 11. That's crazy.
It's a little weird.
I love it though.
It's very much like Circle of Blood from The Punisher. From Mike Beck and who is it? Who wrote this? Grant.
Was it Mike Barron?
Steve Grant.
Oh, Steve Grant. Okay.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Zach and Andrew, you guys are quiet. I know you're thinking inherently, deeply
thinking very, very hard.
Banana pudding.
You know what I really think I like the best about this storyline so far? Is last week Avery was saying he was getting lost and he couldn't see it. And I think he sees it now. I think he sees it a lot clearer.
Yeah.
And I think even though there's so many other levels and so many other twists and so many other stories, we're starting to flesh it out. So
yeah, it's a thick one.
Two thumbs up.
Awesome.
Yeah. It is a serious roller coaster of a story.
Yeah.
To just flow from one genre of story to another. Just boom, boom, boom.
Right? Like some of the ways he could break the law, like shoplifting, like really small stuff, right?
Yeah.
Clothes or something.
Clothes, food. He's evading the police, so he's having to like hide in plain sight and also skulk around. And
if we're doing a riff on Ocean's 11 after he gets out of prison, we're gonna need more characters. So I think this could be an opportunity to introduce some of the other characters from the Bible. Again, this happens before the Gloam was established.
Yeah, because after he takes the mask and assumes the identity, the daughter can start introducing him to people as he builds his crew, who were the Fox's.
So I'm thinking, I'm looking right now. I'm thinking, maybe D won't be here at this point. I don't think. Well, she should come in later, but I'm thinking, we have Cobalt Fox already in there. Well, he's now Cobalt Fox. So what if we say, we could bring in maybe Solar Mannequin as well, or better yet, Beelzebubby, but she's not.
Beelzebubby and Carl, but they're not quite as old.
Well, I mean, how old is Carl, anyways? How old is Carl?
Well, Carl, if this is the 70s, I feel like Carl is our age, so he could be around in the 70s. He might, if it was like, if this took place in the mid 70s, he could be a baby, or he could be a couple years older than us. He could be a little child or something.
Have him running around like Hit Girl.
Yeah, yeah. So plus, we don't have to be like 100% hardcore about the timeline, about the actual time. We can sort of fudge it a little bit. So we could say that this is the time when Beelzebubby was still alive and vital, but we could say that she's actually she's actually like part of a cult, or or connected in some way with the characters from the last story we did, like Cirrus or something like that. Or maybe also, I'm thinking a lot of them, maybe Beelzebubby, but when she was, when she was like younger and better looking, whoever drew Polar Star, Todd, did you draw that?
I did, yeah.
Looks good.
Thank you.
I forget how I wasn't gonna say that would be really what I was about to say would be really inappropriate, so I'm gonna shut the hell up. So maybe Beelzebubby, I don't know, or Full Metal Jackson, but because he's supposed to be General Steele's sidekick. So we could show Full Metal Jackson, but he'll be like a young man then, a fresh recruit, full of piss and vinegar. Yeah. And also I'm thinking maybe some of the base characters like Good Citizen, Mongo, Dolph, or Nightfowl, or maybe some of those characters when they're basically any character who's a bit older. We already have Triceratops as being a part of this, right? Or did we move that out?
No, we have him. We have the potential for it. He's in here. We never removed it. We just haven't pursued it.
Better yet, what if this is the first appearance of Heinous?
Okay. How?
Yes. All right. Well, so he's supposed to come from a distant land, right? Yeah, I'm
Sure.
looking at it right now.
Yep.
And he's supposed to be like one of the most popular characters out there, right?
He has his fans.
Yeah.
He's very polarizing, which is good.
All right. So what if we see that he could be, if this guy's if Nathan Ranger is putting together a kind of an Ocean's 11 thing to take down the bad guy, we could see that the daughter introduces him to Heinous, who's introduces either as either a trans-dimensional traveler from basically from a fantasy world that got stuck in this world, or he's a guy with severe mental problems and a really big issue with his neck. But either way, he's also like really good at being muscle.
Maybe. I see where you're going with this. Yeah. I have to think about. So, I guess the question would be like, is there any way for us to do this, without like, is there any way for us to do this, like without having to put together like an Ocean's 11 style team?
Well, maybe like maybe instead of a team, it's just like people he has to go to for help at different. They come in, they help him a little bit, and then they move out of the story. It's kind of like have any of you guys ever played Max Payne?
Oh yeah, back in the day.
Yeah. So you know how in the story Max Payne goes from like one scenario to another, and there's like an NPC there who's either going to help him or hurt him. But once that NPC's purpose is done, he moves on. So maybe something like that instead. So instead of like Ocean's 11, it could be more like Max Payne or John Wick. Yeah, like I think John Wick would be a better, especially like the last John Wick movie. So he goes, he's basically being hunted by the high table, and he goes from like one person to another, from Halle Berry's character to Lawrence Fishburne's character, and they help him, and it helped as a way to drive the story on, but they don't team up with them except maybe only temporarily.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I could see that. What do you guys think?
It could be good. I'm really liking a younger Beelzebub and Carl.
I guess my challenge is when I think of like Heinous, I think of like his own story, and when I think of Beelzebub and Carl, I kind of think of their own story. But that's not necessarily a fault of you guys. That's just kind of like in my head. It's hard for me to put them together.
Honestly, I'm seeing like a younger Beelzebub is looking a lot like like a young Barbara Streisand in her version of A Star Is Born. But that's just me.
Sure, I like that.
Or maybe Carrie Fisher.
Oh, sure, I could see that too.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, is that this happens before their story takes place. So
right.
So we can see that this kind of lays the groundwork for their story when we move on to the main storyline. That's
true. Like maybe support character, or maybe it's like a like a guest appearance kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, in The Godfather Part 2, it functions both as a prequel and a continuation, because they're always jumping back and forth between Robert De Niro's scenes and the one with Al Pacino. And in Robert De Niro's scenes, you see a lot of the older characters as their younger selves, and it shows how they first met up with Don Corleone, the older Don Corleone. So kind of like that. This shows them as their younger selves, and it kind of lays the groundwork for who they later become.
Oh yeah, for sure. I could see that too. That makes sense. Like, okay, well, let's do this before we. Let's. I think we're all in agreement that there's at least the opportunity for other people to jump in, especially from the AF universe. So I guess the way to really, instead of trying to maybe think about what characters we can put in now, let's think about. Let's think about this. Okay, let's think about what the actual con has to be. If we're ready for it, we might not be, But if we can think about what the con actually is, then we can work backward to what the person, what Nathan / Cobalt Fox has to actually do, and how that can escalate, right? Like start with the actual heist / you know, the con, how they're going to get the bad guy, and then we can kind of work back and see who we need, right?
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the story in all overall, it kept reminding me of like the last couple of X-Men movies or even the Wonder Woman movies, where each one represents like a generation. And I literally see three different, if we were going to put these, if we were casting these as movies, I see three movies. The first movie, set in the mid-70s, late 70s, is the jailbreak. They go into the jail, they get out of the jail. The second movie, which may take place a few years later, is our main character Nathan and Cobalt Fox from the jail going on their adventures together, kind of like the two parties running from the police, getting away from the criminal organization, and then ends up the end of that storyline is Nathan takes over the role of Cobalt Fox and becomes Cobalt Fox. And then the third movie maybe takes place later on, maybe it's late mid 80s. He's already been Cobalt Fox for several years with the help of the daughter, with kind of her instructions, helping him introduce him to the criminal underworld. And maybe he's already gone on several adventures with some of the criminals that he met in prison or that she introduces him to. And it's the next story that results in the whole Ocean's 11 type theme. So I literally see three different movies, but they can also take place in three different times. And I know we established the first one in the 70s. The other one could be like early 80s, you know, like Stranger Things type 80s. And then maybe the third one is like set in the 90s, where if you wanted to introduce a character like Carl and his mother, whatever her name is, they don't have to be children or old. They could actually be, you know, more appropriately aged. And I don't know. I think if we space this out a little bit, we're talking about three different stories here.
You're probably right.
So
I'm gonna be right back again. 2 seconds. Apologies.
Oh yeah, I mean it allows for three different vibes for each issue.
Yep. Well, I think Nathan's character, if you think about it, in the first story, he's kind of naive, but he's got skills. He's got skills, but he's naive. But he's also stoically heroic. In the second one, he's literally been framed for this crime, and he's got to do things that criminals would do in order to avoid the police. And then in the third one, he's a criminal mastermind. You know, he's been doing it for several years. It's like a complete change of the character. This is not just one story in which his character changes. This is three stories with distinct separate people. But it's the same guy.
And he's a person that is literally broken and rebuilds himself.
Yep.
As someone totally different.
I love the idea of him taking over the mantle of Cobalt Fox, and there's so much more that we can add to that, in the fact that Cobalt Fox may not just be a thief, but the head of a criminal empire. You know, there's so much more that can be done, and that the idea that he's connected to all these other criminals, in my mind, it's almost like he's like a Constantine character in the third book, where he knows everybody. He knows all the criminals. He's done stuff with them, or he's been involved with them. And he because Constantine will run into a vampire on the street and he knows him. You know, he knows his backstory. He knows his secrets. He knows everything about him.
Yeah.
That's the kind of Cobalt Fox character I imagine. He know, but it's the criminal, mutant, underworld, supervillains, whatever. He knows them all. You know, And that's going to take a while for him to get introduced to all of them and to know them and go on adventures. And we can kind of skip over that and get to the point, the good part, where he knows everybody. I think that has a lot of potential. And I'm not repeating all that shit for Todd when he gets back. I will tell him about banana pudding.
That is a good idea to break it up that way.
Yeah, that's what
I think that works, rather than trying to make it flow as one long thing. Yeah, I like.
All right, when he comes back, I'll pitch the idea to him and see what he says.
It's pretty good.
Well, I mean, it's my idea. Come on.
I like it. I want to do a book with this Dead Step dude.
Dead Step?
Yeah, it's the guy that looks kind of like Chapel.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, dude. Like, I want to draw some crazy shit with that.
Do some old school J. Lee splash pages with
dude,
black splatter all over.
I need a story with him and D Void. And just go bananas. It has to be just cracked out crazy.
So Todd's away and the mice will play. And so just as I was saying about the alien abductions and various bodily examinations, I was a bit upset about that at first, but mostly because they refused to pay afterwards and so on and so forth.
KG's like, wonder what Todd ate for dinner. No, it's no, man. It's just we got like guests in tonight right now, and then the kids were up late, and it's just been one of those things where like there's just been a lot of chaos. But,
well, while you were gone, we mapped out the whole thing, and we're done for the night. So
awesome.
We're ready to go.
So, peace out, everybody. So what did you realize? What were the notes? Let's go.
Well, all right. So here's what I was pitching, and Avery likes this idea. I didn't give Zach a chance to chime in on it, but
I have nothing to say.
This story to me is like 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 movies set in 3 different time periods. The first one in the mid-70s is the jailbreak one. The second movie might be early 80s, and it's the adventures of Cobalt Fox and Nathan, like running from the police. This is your fugitive movie. And then the third movie is after he assumes the role of Cobalt Fox, and it's several years later, and he and the daughter, she's introducing him to the life of this. Because one of my thoughts is Cobalt Fox isn't just a thief. He's like the mastermind of a criminal organization, a vast criminal organization. I mean, in his heart and soul, he's a thief, but he's actually he has a lot more connections. And what I was telling Avery and Zach is that I see the story. It's a 3-part story. And it's the first one is the jailbreak. The second one is the buddy, the running from the police, the fugitive. And then the third one is the heist movie, the Ocean's 11 type thing. But here's the thing. Nathan's character changes from each one. In the first one, he's the good guy, the goody two-shoes, the honest cop who's doing what he's doing in order to find out who his father, the killer of his father, is. In the second one, he's on the run from the police. He has to do criminal things. He has to do criminal things in order to survive and stay ahead of the police. The end of this, he becomes Cobalt Fox. And in the third one, he is like the dawn of this criminal organization. And so he's literally gone from one side of the spectrum all the way to the other. And what I was saying to Avery, and I think he liked this idea too, is that in the third volume, he reminds me of Constantine. In the fact that Constantine, every time he meets a supernatural person, like he'll meet a vampire on the street, or he'll meet somebody who's a werewolf, he knows them. Mm-hmm. He knows their backstories. He knows their story because he's done things with them. He knows everybody. And in this story, he knows everybody in the criminal organizations because he's done stuff with them or worked with them or so forth. We can actually jump ahead like 10 years and set it like in the early 90s or something. We don't have to try to shove the entire story into the 70s.
So
that's what I imagine this being, is 3 different stories, but it's Nathan's journey from the good cop to the criminal mastermind in the end.
Yeah.
And he could be such a fascinating character, and all the stuff, all the things he has to go through on the journey to get there.
Yeah, because the first one set in the 70s, a lot like a grindhouse flick.
Yep.
Second one is got like the fugitive thing, but it's also like a buddy movie.
Yep.
An 80s buddy movie.
80s, but Tango and Cash.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and the third one is like one of those 90s heist movies or 2000s heist movies.
Yeah, thank goodness Flint's here, because if he didn't know what Tango and Cash was, I'd have to cry.
I know.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't. He just needs to go.
Oh, dude, Terry Hatcher was in Tango and Cash back when.
Yes, she was.
90s was like a 90, like a aughts. Was it? I don't remember when. Ocean's 11 was, but
Well, the original
the original, but yeah,
the new movie.
No, the remake.
I don't remember exactly. I think it was in the early 2000s. I think, but it could have been the late 90s.
Then the 70s was like what?
Grindhouse exploitation flicks.
Just straight up, yes, basically the whole thing. So this goes back to the idea that, at least with the first book or the first instance of this character, the first story of the character, if it's a 70s grindhouse, then the entire thing is in the jail.
Yes.
Right?
A good
the whole movie becomes
pretty much
him
going to jail and then the breakout.
Well, he has to break out, but he also has to clear his name.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen in the first story.
He has to. Well, you got to have.
No, he's never going to clear his name. The only way he clears his name is Cobalt Fox sacrifices himself as him.
If he doesn't clear his name, then the third act still has to be him killing or getting even with the kill. Like, he still has to. The hero has to win. So he has to. There has to be closure. You can't just have him like.
Yeah,
going for no reason, or you don't want to have him. I don't think it's a strong story if we just send him into prison looking for the guy who has information on who killed his dad. Prison riot, lots of fights, information, finds the guy kills himself, and he escapes or something. Like, that's
okay, maybe the connection between all 3 movies, other than Nathan himself, is he goes into the prison to find the person who killed his father. He gets a clue by the end. The second volume is him trying to run from the police, as well as still find who this person is. And in the end, he finds out it was actually Cobalt Fox that did it, but then Cobalt Fox was ordered to do it by somebody else. So he spends the third book, gaining this fame and fortune in the criminal underworld in order to get close to the big boss that's responsible. And, I think maybe it could have been the psychiatrist. I mean, I think she's powerful enough that she's the other connection between all 3 stories.
There's got to be a reason for him to go back after her in the third one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say that one more time. So in the third one, he gains fame and fortune, get close to the bad guy, to the big bad.
Well, at the end of the second, go back to
the first one. I'm going to write so the first one's Grindhouse, right? And in it, what happens?
His goal is to find the man who killed his father. And he gets set up and goes to prison. And he finds out that the person that he's been searching for, that may have the answers, is in that prison. And when he finally confronts him, the person kills himself, so he doesn't get answers, but he does find clues. And then he and Cobalt Fox, his cellmate, escape. And Cobalt Fox has answers, but he doesn't know that initially. I think, and then the twist at the beginning, in the first story, is you find out that the psychiatrist has been pulling the strings all along. Maybe we don't know she's the one that ordered his father be killed and so forth. Maybe we don't know that yet, but we find out she plays a much bigger role in the overall story.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she's not even in the second one at all. Maybe she has henchmen trying to hunt them down to try to kill them, but she's not a pivotal point. It's at the end of the story when we find out when Cobalt Fox, the original, sacrifices himself in the place of Nathan so that he could be free, but then gives him the mask, gives him the mantle, introduces him to the daughter of the guy, and gives him pretty much everything he has.
Yeah.
That's his redemption. That's Cobalt Fox's redemption, is to give this kid who he killed his father everything he could give him. Everything he has.
Is the second book?
Yes, that's the second book. That's the end of the second book. And that's when he finds out.
And the point of the second book, if the goal is to find the man who killed his father in the first book, the goal in the second one is...
It's still to find the man who killed his father.
Cobalt Fox was just the trigger.
Yeah.
He was just the weapon. He was just what was used. He isn't the person truly responsible.
Right.
Okay.
And in the end, he takes over the mantle of Cobalt Fox. He finds the daughter of the guy that killed himself, and she is the connection to all of Cobalt Fox's vast empire of whatever. And they find out, oh, what if the psychiatrist is her mother? I mean, I know you were complaining about all the interconnections.
That might be too much. That might be too much.
Hey, this is Hollywood, man. Everybody's related to everybody here.
No, I mean, it's a little too. But I mean, there's no problem with it. We can still put it on the board, like we absolutely should if it's an idea.
Well,
yeah. And here's a 90s heist movie. Because technically, Ocean's 11 came out in 2001. So if we want 90s, we can still have Ocean's 11 influence, but 90s heist movie, Heat.
Oh yeah, Heat's fantastic.
Heat's a good movie.
Heat's classic.
It's got one of the best shootout scenes in modern cinema.
Oh my god, dude, that movie is gun porn.
Romel one time told me that Heat was a really great movie for how not to rob a bank.
Yeah.
So okay, he's like, it's like a training session for people who want to rob banks. Which is another good one. Have you ever seen the Ben Affleck movie, The Town?
No.
It's a good flick. Yeah, it's a good one.
Flick.
Yep. I just recently rewatched it. Jeremy Renner and Ben Affleck.
So what Grindhouse? And I'll this is maybe a Zach or Avery question. What Grindhouse movie reference would
why would you just assume I wouldn't know what a Grindhouse movie was like?
Okay,
I don't. I just wondered why you would assume.
What Grindhouse movie would you recommend?
I've never even seen Grindhouse.
I mean, the only one I remember really, I'm not really deep into Grindhouse, but I mean, Dusk Till Dawn. Even though it's Tarantino, it's still kind of Grindhouse.
Yeah, no, Grindhouse very much influences Tarantino's movies.
Yeah, what would this be? Like if we wanted to watch a movie,
there's a lot of crazy weird like prison movies.
Something with a good story.
Grindhouse isn't known for good stories.
I know. This is you see where I'm going with this.
Think of basing it off of something like Seven meets like let me. I gotta get my brain working.
Well, you know what could work for this. Actually, it's not necessarily a '70s Grindhouse. You guys saw the Jack Reacher series that was on Amazon Prime earlier this year.
Yep, it was very good.
The one with the guy from Blue Mountain State, who, by the way, is like huge. I mean, that guy. He looks like the size of a house. I mean, I compared that guy to like his earlier work. He really put the work in on that.
Well, what's so funny is when my wife and I were watching that series, I said, I wonder what Jack Reacher, the character from the books, actually looks like. And he's dead on. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they casted Tom Cruise as Reacher. I think it was all had to do with his name. Yeah.
It's Tom Cruise, and he's basically the last real movie star left. But
yeah, he's supposed to be like 6'5" and built like a house.
And Tom Cruise is But anyway, so like the first couple episodes of that series, I haven't seen all of it, but I saw the first couple. is Reacher's in prison and he's looking for answers. So it could kind of be like that.
Mhm.
So think of that, but make it more like maybe like that meets Sharky's Machine.
Mhm.
Like the old Burt Reynolds movie. When he's in prison, he's a football player in prison. Sharky's Machine meets Jack Reacher from 2022.
Because like when I think of like prison movies, it's all like the chick prison movies, like women in jail or whatever.
Yeah,
like women's prison.
That's what it is. That's classic Grindhouse, right?
Did you guys ever see?
I just mean the way Tarantino uses it for like a color palette and a vibe.
Yeah, well, look, you guys saw the movie called Grindhouse that he did with and the trailers, and the one that really sticks in my mind is the one that is the trailer that Rob Zombie did. What is it, werewolves of the something like that, werewolves of the SS or something like that.
Oh, Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS. That's an actual movie from.
I know, but yeah, and he and what I like about that is that it was like werewolf women of the SS. That's what he called it. Mm-hmm. And the thing that really got me in the end is like this guy just basically like. I got the feeling that he basically got his hands on like on an old prop room and just started throwing random shit in there. And the end result, of course, was like Nicolas Cage as Dr. Fu Manchu. And I remember thinking at the time, if he made that movie, I would watch it just to see Nicolas Cage in a horribly racist part. Yeah, and I said this to someone who's of Asian ancestry. Yeah, I would just see that just for that alone.
So, so I guess my question is like, because this is interesting. This is fascinating because it changes. It has a lot of possibility and it changes a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. Because now essentially instead of one story structure, we're saying there's going to be three. There's going to be one in the 70s, one in the 80s, and one in the 90s.
Gives us a little bit more room to breathe, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We were trying to shove it all into one story, and there was a lot of stuff going on.
And I think 48 to 60 page books would be better if you're doing this as graphic novels. It would work better.
Oh, like 2 issues in the 70s, 2 issues in the 80s, 2 issues in the 90s?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cram. Okay.
Because you can also change the art style. As soon as the next story, when you pick up the next book and you go to the next story arc, the art style changes too, and the color palette changes.
I'm actually really interested to know what if KG and Willie D are still chiming in what they think, and Dusty. I'm wondering what they think in chat. That's it's good. We could totally work that. But if we do that, then I guess everything that we have so far could still work because it would fit inside of the arc. It fit inside of the story structure for the 70s Grindhouse thing. I would say that if we focused on 70s Grindhouse, and it was just like clue number one, it would look like the serial killer and Grindhouse movies of the day, Yeah, if that's the case, then what we're really going after,
flicks.
Then what we're really going after, I think the find, like, basically, I think the most interesting threat to him beyond the environment would be the idea of the Suicide Squad like pit where superheroes come in to train and get their ass kicked, right? Mm-hmm. And if they waste a supervillain, who gives a shit, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's got to be, and then he has to be tossed into the pit, or like he has to kind of navigate that, right? He's gonna have to really figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still like a search part,
mm-hmm.
or like we still need to find the villain in it. You still need the even if you have the master villain who's going to be in a different story, you still got to set it up like almost like the Matrix, where you still have the villains on the hunt, he's got to be chased. So I think we'll still have to work. Even if we move the big baddie to a different book or a different comic or whatever, there still needs to be that same threat. If he's not escaping, I'll put it like this: if he's not escaping prison, being a fugitive, getting chased, then he's not escaping the prison, getting chased. Like he still has to
it
survive,
ends with him escaping.
right?
That story, that book would end with him escaping, with the escape and them getting away. That's where it would end, and it would have a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Okay, yeah. So really, I'm curious now. Like, we'll have to find some like good grindhouse prison movies,
and I'd watch some slasher flicks from back then too.
Yeah, it's gonna be. This is a more gory book, isn't it?
Yes. So
This
watch
is gonna be-
stuff like the original Maniac.
You're saying movies I don't know.
Oh, you could. You know what? You could watch the Elijah Wood one also. That's not bad.
It's a good grindhouse prison.
I Spit on Your Grave is a good slasher grindhouse. What people ought to consider exploitation or grindhouse.
That
Oh, is
one
that-
I've seen. That one I've seen.
Yeah, I've seen that one. I've seen all the I Spit on Your Grave movies.
Maybe the original version of Straw Dogs with Dustin Hoffman.
Mm.
Not the remake from a few years ago.
I've seen the remake of that one, not the original.
Yeah, the original is it basically. Let me put it this way: the remake toned down a lot of the stuff in the 70s because back then you could really get away with that stuff. But even then, it was I think it was one of the first movies that actually got rated X because of like some of the really sick stuff they threw in there. Or maybe it's maybe like the Wild. No, that's a Western. I was gonna say the Wild Bunch, but that's a Western. I'm gonna do an internet search right now. Okay.
Yeah, Escape from Alcatraz was a 70s prison movie. That's pretty good.
Faster Pussycat Kill was grindhouse.
Yep.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's been a long time.
All right. So
Death Race 2000s, obviously.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I just did a search for grindhouse prison movie, and the first thing that came up, IMDb, Grindhouse Guide to Grindhouse Genres, Women in Prison.
Yeah. I've seen some. There's a bunch of those. I've seen some of them. Most of them are awful. I'm just talking about the color using the color palettes, like and the tone, like the way Quentin Tarantino uses it.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to do like a horror, but there are things like
there are elements of horror
in
that story.
Yeah. All right. So we got. How about some old school black? How about some of the old school black exploitation? Like Shaft or the Mac or Dolomite, which although that's more of like I think that was more of like a spoof of the genre than it was an actual thing. But all right, well I'm gonna so yeah, we got Death Proof, Coffee, Five Fingers of Death.
Maniac came out in 1980. Oh, damn.
Switchblade Sisters. I never heard of that one. Drive Angry. I don't know if that counts. Jeez.
Does Big Trouble in Little China count as a grindhouse thing?
No.
No.
What genre would that be?
Totally awesome and quotable.
Yeah, I know, but
no, it wasn't. That movie was influenced by a lot of like the early kung fu movies that came over here.
Yep.
And stuff. It was, but it maybe exploitation a little bit does influence it.
It's one of those movies that couldn't get made today. Let's put it that way.
No, it was but I love it.
Or maybe the Green Hell. I mean, that was like that's a grindhouse classic right there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original.
Oh yeah, God.
I don't know. I mean, but it doesn't have to be like strictly grindhouse. We can do like old school 70s thrillers as well.
Yeah. That's the reason I was saying Escape from Alcatraz.
All right. 70s prison movies.
Yeah, most of them are female.
Yeah. Of the grindhouse, most of them are like hot babes from prison or reform school, prison.
Or women in cages, or The Longest Yard. How about that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, it's Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
And co-starring Burt Reynolds' mustache. God, I miss,
Oh yeah, for slasher flick, the Toolbox Murders.
Or, I don't know. Was Escape from New York in the 70s, or was that the 80s? I think we discussed that
80s.
last time. No, that doesn't count then.
No, Escape from Alcatraz was 70s though, with Clint Eastwood.
Or obviously the French Connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, those are all ideas.
So if we're going the grindhouse route, then Nathan is basically he can start off as a decent person, but he's gonna be slaughtering motherfuckers left and right. He can't be passive. He can't just like sit there and be like, "Oh, it's just
exactly, dude." Yeah, when he has to fight in the prison, he has to hurt people. He has to hurt them bad and fast. I
could see him hurting people, but not killing people. I think Cobalt Fox could kill somebody.
Yeah.
I think he's part of that dynamic where he could kill somebody.
Did you guys ever see a movie that came out, I think, like about 20 years ago, called Undisputed, starring Ving Rhames and Wesley Snipes? It was about two boxers in prison.
Mm-mm.
It was like one of the last movies Peter Falk did before he died. The guy played Columbo.
I think I have seen it, but I don't remember enough about it.
Yeah. Oh, never mind then. If no one's seen it, then there's no point.
Well, Ving Rhames is always awesome, so.
Yeah. I keep, him and Michael Clark Duncan, may he rest in peace.
All right, so we'll definitely see. There's a couple of really interesting films that I'll have to see if I can find some information on, so I can get more accumulated to. I'm not deep grindhouse, but that's totally cool. Oh yeah, KG says Halloween, of course.
Yeah. For the violence.
Yeah, Halloween's super in there. Dawn of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of course. There's some in here that I've never heard of, which are pretty cool. That makes me want to see it. There's one that's like a kung fu movie that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, there are some of these movies when I was looking up for 70s slasher. It's like I've seen it, but I haven't seen it in 30 years or more.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them I haven't seen, since I was a teenager. So I'd have to find it and watch it again.
There's actually one. Oh, this is interesting. There's a Sex and Fury, 1973.
Mm-hmm.
It's Japanese, but it's listed as number 11 on the top 20. And it says the 1973 film stars basically this actor stars as a Meiji era gambler and petty criminal searching for the gangsters that murdered her father when she was just a little girl. So that could kind of work, maybe, right?
That might be a good movie to watch for some idea. Yeah.
Shameless and Stylist, mixing beautiful costumes and religious imagery with action and raw sexuality. Incredible fight cinematography on display. All right, yeah, maybe that something that has not necessarily that needs to have a similar plot, but something we can kind of see the pacing of it, just to kind of get through it. Because there still has to be the arc. You still have to go through the arc, the payoff arc, right? You have to have the beginning, middle, and end. Even if the end is just leads into the next movie. I mean, Star Wars: New Hope had an end, but it also led into the next film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really interesting. Let's see. Should we look at? I have no idea. Should we look at some trailers? Is that gonna be awful? Bad Boys with Sean Penn.
You know what I was just gonna say about Star Wars? Your reference there. The reason why Star Wars had an ending but continued into the next movie is because Darth Vader survived at the end. Right. The bad guy survived. He didn't there wasn't the retribution. There wasn't the journey that ends the hero's journey.
Right.
So keep that in mind.
But
that was a good reference. That was a fantastic reference.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Do you want to watch? You want to watch a trailer real quick?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to throw this over here. I'm going to stop sharing because I have to share with audio for this one to make it work. Let's see. Share screen, tab. This one, share tab with audio, and let me turn down the background music for just a second. Let's look at this. All right, just for a second, we'll turn on the background. Let me know if you guys can hear this. Okay, all right.
Show-san, あなたが very nice 人間です。あんたの最高のバクチ打ちだよ。
Oh,
I can get your channel struck.
it's YouTube.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, the algorithm.
Oh my God! All right.
I've never heard or seen that movie. Not live.
Should we go? Not live. We shouldn't watch this.
No, dude. Because if the algorithm the algorithm might catch your channel, but not that, and you get a strike.
Thanks, YouTube. That ain't me, man.
I can't believe that was in a trailer, but the 70s.
1973, no less.
Dude.
All right, just imagine the atmosphere from that trailer, but add superpowered supervillains.
Yeah, and no sex.
Right.
Well, I mean,
it's prison, so okay, some sex.
Well, that you guys do remember me mentioning the woman's superpowered prison being connected to this prison?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. Is that there could be some of that in there too.
Or we could take some cues from Oz.
I've never seen that show.
It's disturbing, but it's a good show.
Oz and The Wire are two HBO shows I've never watched. And I've heard how great they are, but I've never watched them. But they're definitely of their time, I think.
Would Ninja Scroll kind of be a grindhouse as an anime?
I could see how it has some influence from that era.
If you said Ninja Scroll, wouldn't Cowboy Bebop be a grindhouse type thing?
Cowboy Bebop definitely has some influence from exploitation flicks and stuff.
Interesting.
You can mix whatever you want, because when I talk about grindhouse, I'm just talking about like colors and graphic violence.
And I mean, I know, but I mean, in terms of story though, like even if now I don't know anything about Sex and Fury other than the 30 seconds I just saw, but if you
that one bad guy looking guy with the mustache, that was fantastic.
Yeah, but I do think it could be cool. Like, I mean, I love it when you can kind of do something in a different way and still kind of see it. Like instead of like a fancy hall with gambling, it's a prison, right? And if there's a revenge attitude towards it as well, that could be cool. I mean, if you wanted to go hardcore grindhouse, it would be an all-female prison, but I don't think that's kind of where we're going. That would change everything.
Yeah.
I think Avery's thinking grindhouse for aesthetic, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily storylines from the grindhouse era, but definitely the aesthetic.
Yes.
Which I think I agree with that 100%. We don't have to have gratuitous sex and violence and, you know, over the top stuff in the story, but setting wise, I think that's definitely where we're coming from.
Yes, that's where I'm coming from. It's, with like the murder scene, you know, the murder scenes that are in the story, you know, look at the 70s like slasher flicks also.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you guys are thinking. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about the other day, right? Where we were talking about let me stop my screen and go back to where we were talking about the Punisher Circle of Blood, right? Because in the Circle of Blood, which has a fantastic Punisher, and the whole prison, like the whole first part of the book is him in prison, right? But extending that to be like the actual first part of the journey, it almost would make it a little more like a manga in a weird way, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first book is, you know, introducing him, finding out a little bit his backstory, him going to prison, and then him breaking out.
Yeah.
Which could easily be 48, 60 pages.
Right. But then he needs to find his answer, but like, you know, there needs to be more, obviously.
Yeah. Gets part of a kind of an answer, a direction to go is all he gets. And he finds out there's something more to even that.
Todd, have you seen the Fantastic Beasts movies from Harry Potter?
Say it one more time.
The Fantastic Beasts movies from Harry Potter. You haven't seen them? Okay. No. Well, then my reference would be lost on you.
No, I'm gonna have to look at Second Fury is interesting. Like I like, you know, kid grows up, now a woman, of course, in this case, goes after to avenge father. You know, through a bunch of like I'm assuming Yakuza like gangster stuff. I could totally see that. Like I think we could do that in a prison as well. I do like the idea that it's like so if we could do this, and we really should move this towards, we'll do this maybe next week, because I think it's going to take a minute to think about. But it does make I think what would make it interesting is fleshing out the search in the prison, examining the prison more, and moving in to that superhero side, right? Because they're also, it's not just, I think what would have to be established, and if we focused on it as a grindhouse book or 70s, if the whole thing was the prison, I think what would really have to come out of it is that this guy Jack is just completely, even if he hasn't physically changed into Cobalt Fox at this point, if we keep that, then at least he's completely disillusioned. Like he's a different person, right? He still has to go through that cycle of order law, disorder criminal, order criminal, right? By the time he actually comes out of the prison, he's done criminal things, including like murder and blatant, you know, like theft or what have you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's had to do all the things that a criminal would have to do to survive in a prison-like situation like that.
See, right? I don't think the criminal aspect comes into the second one. In the second story, when they're on the run from the police, that's when he has to do criminal acts in order to stay away from the police and survive. In the prison, he kind of has help. You know, he kind of has his own wits. He can stay true to himself in the prison. I mean, that's like a huge Herculean task, is to go into the prison with superheroes, super criminals, survive, but still be yourself at the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree. But I understand where you're coming from.
No, the first cracks need to start in the prison.
Well, he's got to change. He has to evolve,
Yeah.
or else there's no character and there's no story.
Well,
Right.
definitely changes.
And the other, I guess the challenge I would have to you, Andrew, is like he at any point in the story, one of the rules of storytelling / screenwriting, you know, basically the hero has to be the one to initiate everything. If the hero is pushed into it, or has help, or is following along like a puppy, then you don't have a hero, and basically you're an assist. It's like following Robin through Batman's story, right? Which is cool for an episode or something, but it's not like an interesting character if that's all you know about the character. So I do think he'd still have to be completely changed. I do like the idea. You got me on the idea of moving into 3 books, but I do think by the time he's ended, he has to be, if he hasn't murdered people, right? And I'm okay with that if we can work that out. He still has to be criminal. Like, he has to be ordered criminal as opposed to order law. Like, he's not the same person. He's come to the other. He's back to where he begins, not in prison, but he has changed, right?
Well, I think if in their escape to get out of the prison, he ends up having to kill somebody, that's perfectly fine if that person is a criminal, is an inmate. I don't think he's not going to kill a prison guard in the first part. Well, maybe that's the breaking point. Maybe that's what ends up happening. Maybe he has to, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
That would certainly break him.
Well, it
Yeah,
definitely change his character and send him on a whole new path.
and then I mean, you could have that. I mean, that would
The
make
prison
sense.
guard can be an absolute bastard who has it coming, who could be
Well,
just as
that-
crooked
yeah.
as any criminal.
Yeah, that's true too. Like Porn
Well, he
Stash
also-
from
I
Orange
mean,
is the New Black.
Oh,
well,
worse.
the interesting thing, I mean, you could. It still has to build either way, right? He's not going to just like jump out of the blue and like start murdering people. So,
Yeah.
So you still go through like the very first thing he would start to do is lie, because he's going in there, right? So just him like going in there is a lie, and that's already a change of character.
Lying, contraband.
Right. And then he would slowly like move up the ladder to where he has to kill somebody to get.
Yeah.
To get.
He just keeps getting exposed to increasing violence, and that's going to have an effect on you.
He's just like Andy Dupree. He went into prison and became a criminal.
Yeah.
That would be the Shawshank Redemption.
Mhm.
Yes.
Andy Dupree.
Yes.
Okay. I saw Todd's blank face. So.
No, you just got me thinking.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I
Okay,
want
good.
to watch the rest of Sex and Fury, but I also don't want to get like God knows where it's going to go. Freaking YouTube.
Yeah, you can't watch that live. You don't. A trailer from the 70s, you never know.
I wonder if I found another one. I'm gonna watch it really quick. It's 1 minute and 45 seconds. I'm just gonna check it and make sure it's not prawn. Those are for later. Hold on.
That's for when we're alone.
All right. So, well, this one's doesn't really show anything. I mean, it shows blood and it shows shots, but it doesn't really show.
Yeah, that's for when we make Andrew eat the cookie.
Anyway, oh God, no. Avery.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Hey, as long as I can eat the cookie with banana pudding, I'm fine. Okay.
yeah.
Todd's gonna have to watch this
Oh,
thing
God.
later to understand what the hell we're talking about.
KG says my
God.
favorite. KG says my favorite, Shawshank. Yeah, that's a fantastic movie. Let me see. Where can you watch Sex and Fury? Is that something we can watch? Not live, but Wonder where
He
that
is
would
all
be.
hung up on this trailer.
Well, I want to watch. I love. I mean, we're talking about 1970s, and so the thing that's in the 70s, like I've seen a couple. I've never watched full movies, but I've definitely seen a bunch that were like Grindhouse 70s, women in prisons, and that's always sort of more like just TNA. It's not like deep storytelling.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't care. I mean, it's got the prison, but who cares? It's not really what we want to do. The horror movies in the 70s are dope. They're like the classic horror movies, but it's too outside of what we're doing. And so I'm hoping, and I don't know, but something like Sex and Fury, at least as a beginning reference point, where it's 1970s, revenge for killing father, action movie. Maybe like that sounds like it could be something cool. I don't know. Prime Video has it. I wonder if it's we have that. We actually have Prime. I wonder if we can get that. So all right. So I'll look at it. I like the idea that it's in the 70s, so it's going to have the tropes of the 70s. Especially if we're going to do this, you could have like the shot. If it's a comic or graphic novel, you have the shots of the 70s, like weird angles with bad lighting. You know what I mean? They're all muted.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Oh, dude, The Last House on the Left.
Oh, that was a hardcore horror movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's a revenge movie.
Yeah.
Death Wish, the first Death Wish.
Death Wish. Let's look at Death Wish. Let's see if we can. Death Wish
That's
is
a good
classic.
revenge movie. Dude, I
Love
love
Death
that
Wish.
movie.
I haven't seen Death Wish in a long time.
Oh, dude, Paul Kersey.
One in what was the one with Clint Eastwood? The Dirty Harry movie.
Harry.
Yeah. What was the first one?
Oh, Get Carter.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, no. I've only ever seen the Mel Gibson one.
Oh. The original is 1970.
Okay.
Yeah, Get Carter, the original one with Michael Caine.
Yeah.
That's a classic. The one with Sylvester Stallone, not so much.
All right, so let's see. Let's watch Death Wish trailer. I think that's going to be okay for YouTube. That's right. All right, let's see. There's Death Wish. Let's share. I think we'll be okay. I don't remember blatant nudity in Death Wish. Right. Again, let me know if you guys can hear this.
There is nudity in the movie Death Wish.
Yeah, but I don't know if it'd be this was a
trailer.
theatrical trailer,
Yeah.
so
yeah,
I think we'll be a little more safe.
I love this movie, dude.
All right, well, hit me up if you guys have trouble hearing it. You hear it okay?
Enjoy a typical afternoon in New York City.
You guys hear it okay?
Jeff Goldblum?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Oh, it is Jeff Goldblum. Holy crap. No way.
My name is Paul Kersey. How's my wife?
I'm sorry. She died a few minutes ago, Mr. Kersey.
Any chance of catching these men?
There's a chance, sure.
Just a chance.
I'd be less than honest if I gave you more hope, Mr. Kersey.
This is Paul Kersey. This is the story of a man who decided to clean up the most violent town in the world.
Listen to the rail. Give me the money.
He begins where all the super cops leave off.
Bugging has gone down by how much, sir?
$950 a week to $470. You reported last week.
You understand not so many people know that. And you want to keep it that way, huh?
Oh, no, we have to keep it that way, Inspector. This whole city would explode.
And if this person is listening to my voice, I urge him in the name of law and order to desist from this one-man crusade and turn himself into the police.
Let's see the money, man.
Call him a mad vigilante. Call him a hero. Either way, he's always on target.
We want you to get out of New York. Permanently.
Never make a death wish. Because a death wish always comes true. And you get to love it.
So good, dude.
Yeah. The investigation could kind of mirror some of the beats in that movie. The investigation part. Because the cops are trying to catch him. And Paul Kersey has a duality. He changes who he is as a person. In this story, the Paul Kersey character is a bleeding heart anti-gun liberal.
Okay.
And then his family is raped. His wife is murdered. His wife and daughter were both brutally raped and beaten. The wife dies, and he becomes a very right-wing vigilante.
That's really, yeah. Well, that's the changing of the character, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I mean. Like, again, we don't have to be as dramatic as like going from complete negative to positive. But if we move Nathan through that to where by the end of the story, the things that would be completely unacceptable before are now completely acceptable, and in fact, the way of normal life for him to survive or get what he wants,
and
whatever it is.
And the violence in prison would do that.
Yeah, right.
And the violence and the scheming and the things you have to do to get by would change him completely.
Right. Interesting. All right.
I could literally see a scene in the prison where one person is like getting beat up or almost killed or even killed, and he kind of walks past it, doesn't interfere. But then in the end, he has to do something very dramatic in order to save Cobalt Fox, and he actually has to kill one of the guards.
Well, he has to kill a cop?
Yeah, kill one of the guards in order to save Cobalt Fox in the end.
I think that's good as long as, okay. Well, I don't think he's going to give a shit about Cobalt, right? I mean, does he really care?
Well, yeah.
Cobalt Fox has superpowers that have been helping him stay alive.
Didn't we establish something about Cobalt Fox to where maybe he can give him his powers for a short period of time? Wasn't that something we talked about?
Maybe the prison guard knows a secret.
I don't think so.
Why was I thinking it was? But okay.
You'd have to have a part in there where the prison guard knows a secret. The prison guard ends up being the big baddie, right? You gotta.
Yeah.
If the person that's going to bring him over the edge is to murder the prison guard, then in the first episode,
because one of the people, the guy he's looking for in prison that he knows has something to do with his dad's death, had something to do with it from prison, and the guard was part of that communication line.
Could work.
I do like the idea. That you have, that you started in the 70s, and you introduced the psychiatrist in the 70s as this nice young person or something, and it takes him 20 plus years to figure out and to finally get to her as the supervillain. That's an interesting. That's a very interesting thing,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Because she wouldn't be working. She's not working at the jail anymore. She's a senator or whatever.
Yeah.
That and
And the only reason she was there at that prison is she was recruiting.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, guys. Well, this was a very interesting lore games, man. Like it, it wasn't a lot of typing tonight, but at the same time, it was a lot of work, which is a lot of good work. How do you guys feel about it?
Are you seeing it? Are you seeing this as like a single graphic novel, or more like 3 separate issues spread out?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't thinking of it as 3 books or three anything. I was thinking about it as one. But now if we're moving it towards almost like a Kill Bill thing, where it's like part 1, part 2, part 3, like a trilogy, then
Kill Bill's very influenced by Grindhouse.
Oh yeah, Kill Bill is just a animatic of Grindhouse. Then if that
Kung Fu movies and
if that's sort of the way it's going to be, then
because your art style and color palette changes for each book too.
It kind of it does it might make sense more as a I don't know. I still love the idea of doing these as novels, but at the same time, I totally understand if
it would. This also would work good as 3 novellas or one big novel with time jumps. You could have a big time jump like that in a novel.
What do you see, Zach?
He stepped away. He just stepped away for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I could see this. It's one of those things like graphic novels work for everything.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's why we love comics and graphic novels, because comics works for you can tell any story. But I'd be lying if I said I'm not excited about the kind of stuff that Zach's doing with Blood and Metal. You know what I mean? And I love the idea of rolling out a series of novels that are actually the backstories of the characters.
Okay, novels can be for a lot of
right, like if you like, I like runs. Like you have like if the novels are the big milestone points that are actually like the backstories of these characters, leading up to the big event in the present day. Where
old backstories or novels, more contemporary characters backstories, or one shots, graphic novels, or two shots.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it always could be a mixture as well. Like I've also been interested in like, I don't see this that often, but also like taking a novel, and this is going to get into tools, but like I don't even have a book that I want to show, but like taking taking a traditional novel, like a hardbound book, right? Like, and actually printing the comics in a novel format. Right, using the newsprint of a novel. Like nobody does that. I used to see it as a kid, but I love that. I would love it. Like, this book is a prose, this book is a graphic novel, but the same format, same size.
Okay, like European albums.
Like novella, like a graphic novella.
Yeah. Or I think a lot of people over there call them albums.
Okay, and it's not. Well, I'm not talking about the larger pieces. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about I'm not talking like this size, right?
Yeah,
I'm talking about like actual like book size, like novel size.
Yeah, but still, hardback novels are still. Some of them are printed fairly large.
KG says he loves the direction, almost a trilogy story. That's good to hear, man. Yeah, it's so different. It's amazing how like one conversation, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait,
this is a trilogy with 3 different vibes. And like if this were films or graphic novels, you would have to change art styles and color palette for each one.
Well, the thing that was so funny when I was thinking about it was all the different movie references that we were coming up with that really doesn't necessarily all go together, but they can. But they also stand alone by themselves too, So it's just in my mind naturally. This was 3 separate stories.
Yeah,
3 separate time frames.
If you look at Star Wars, man, there's 3 different tones.
Yeah.
Back. Yeah. See, Todd, you were asking me something.
Oh yeah, no worries. We've been talking since you left. We were talking about like what the format of this would be, and I don't know. I mean, it's challenging because comics and graphic novels work for everything, which is why we love the medium. But I kind of see. I also kind of see these as like one book with 3 parts or 3 short novellas or Do you know what I mean? Like I love the idea that we've kind of established with Blood and Metal, and that we don't have to make a decision tonight. Like it's this is just total blue sky. Nothing we say is like permanent at all. But I really love the idea that we established in Blood and Metal, where it turned out to be the backstory of Solar Mannequin and Primordial, right? And you're like, oh, that's so cool. And now we're actually doing the same with Cobalt Fox in a really interesting way, because Cobalt Fox is actually in the book as Cobalt Fox. So it doesn't even like come across as a birthing story until the very end. Very similar actually to Solar Mannequin, right? You don't know a Solar Mannequin until the very end. So it almost makes sense as like
thanks for spoiling the story for Todd.
This is a spoiler show.
Everybody in the chat, forget what you just heard.
They know. But you know, so I could kind of see this as three little novellas as well, just to like, you know, it just takes a little longer to get to a story, but it's through the same type of pain. You know what I mean? What do you see? What do you see, Zach?
Well, creatively, I think it can go either way. But I hate to do this, but I'm also thinking practically in terms of like what it would take to create that. Because, you know, like as you know, I hate to say this, but it's easier to write a novel than it is to draw one, because with writing you're just writing. Yeah. Whereas with a novel, with a graphic novel, you're writing and you're drawing.
Yeah.
So if we were to plot this out as like three separate novels, Avery, I don't know what your schedule's like, but do you really think you could probably crank out 3 graphic novels in like under 2 years?
No,
probably not. So we would either have to.
I could do one a year, or less.
So, or maybe you know what we could do also is instead of just putting out as a graphic novel, you know, we're working with comics, right? So why not put it out as a limited series? You know, that'll give us that'll take the pressure off. They'll take the pressure off whoever we bring in to draw it, and you know, we'll swap out afterwards.
We'll certainly think about it. I also think there's a possibility, because really what comics are, from like, at least from the independent, if you actually like look at some of the independent publishers and the independent creators, what they're really doing is they're producing a fatter comic, but like once a quarter, right?
Right.
It just takes, but when you're doing it yourself, you know, it's either once a quarter or twice a year. So what we could do, and this is
European does that too.
Yeah. This is totally blue sky. Again, it's not, we're just talking shit here, but we could do the bigger projects, like the bigger pieces of the story like this, as novels or novellas. Like you've got Blood and Metal, you've got this, you've got the next thing, kind of go through it like this, and then the pieces in between become standalone comics that are sequential in the overall timeline, but don't necessarily have to be a 6-issue miniseries. Because I think that's where it's such a grind. It's so hard to do. And that's why you even see some of the best people who are out there releasing 1 book a year, right? It's not that they don't want to do more. It's that they also want to, like, you know, live longer and not die at the drawing table, you know?
Well, listen, I mean, if you look at the way a lot of like manga writers in Japan live, I mean those guys don't have a life.
No, it's slavery. They're hardcore.
Yes, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can see this as a graphic novel, you know, maybe like divided up into 4 chapters, but it would be a pain in the ass to create and it would take forever. I'm thinking if we do, but I really do see this maybe as if we do it as a novel, it would have to be something like, you know, like the old Reno Williams or the event or whatever it was, Reno Williams novels from, like, you know, if you used to go to an airport, you like find like these little cheap ass paperbacks of.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So three novellas with color illustrations for this story.
Exactly, something like that, and if we did it as a total comic, I think, you know, it would have to be like once a quarter to put out, and
Or maybe not. Maybe what we could do is, how do you guys feel about splitting up the work among different artists? We give it to
I would actually hire 3 different artists to do this book. Each book would have a different artist because everything the style and tone has to change.
Yeah.
I could do all 3 because I can change my style.
Yeah, but it would take you a while. That's the thing.
Yeah, it would take 2 a year.
Yeah.
Pencil inking and coloring my own stuff would be a grind.
Well, we'll figure that out. I think it's interesting. It's really, I think the main takeaway for tonight though is I think we kind of cracked something here where we've come to the realization that the story is actually 3 parts, and that it may be 3 different little releases, but to Andrew's point, and Zach's point, really, and really Avery, all 3 of you guys, like that, it gives it a little more breathing room if we do that. And so maybe what we'll do for next time, I'm gonna see if I can watch Sex and Fury and educate, maybe even some more things. I need to educate myself on Grindhouse. Because like I said, I've certainly watched plenty of Grindhouse. It's just been like, in a club or in a bar, or I wasn't sober. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's always in the background.
And it was like
Grindhouse,
20, 30 years ago.
Every time I've seen Grindhouse, it's been in the background while we played D&D. You know what I mean? So it's like the thing that's on where you're actually like doing the other thing. So
yeah, I haven't watched any of those kind of movies since my 20s.
Right. Exactly. So I'll go check out some Grindhouse and kind of just see if I can get the flow, and that'll push us into the Supermax prison thing. I think a superhero Grindhouse thing is pretty badass, actually. I don't think I've seen that before. So awesome, guys. Well, we hit the time. Should we say anything else before we bounce?
Spoon.
Spoon, not in the face, not in the face.
All right. Okay. Andrew turns his mic on and then turns his mic off.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I was going to say something, but I decided not to.
No worries.
You don't have a tick reference?
He doesn't have a tick reference. No. It's okay. No. With that, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Always interesting on the Lore Games. Apologies again for me stepping out for just 2 brief minutes. A little bit of a crazy day, but it all worked out in the end. We've got some really good progress. This is looking good. 3 different books, 3 different projects. Really interesting trilogy to what may be the birth of Cobalt Fox, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, thank you to all my guests here tonight. Thank you out there. Thank you, everyone in chat. KG, I appreciate you. Dusty, Willie D, as always. Everybody at home watching, I really appreciate you guys. And yeah, tune in next week. I'm going to do some research on this because it's going to be crazy. All right, guys. As always, I love you. God bless. Take care. Peace out.